Here it is. There will be a run on the British pound by April of 2009 and the euro by December.
I agree.
I think we're definitely going to have some pretty tumultuous markets for the currency.
Anyway, that's it for the first half of the show. Welcome back to The Oracle. I'm Max Kaiser. With me, financier and journalist Sami El-Shehhat. My co-host with all the facts at her slender fingertip, Stacey Herbert. And helping to predict the future, the omnipresent Oracle. Say hello, Oracle. Swell, isn't he? Fantastic. You know, let's talk about the Baltic Dry Index. It's dry by name, but not by nature. Believe me, there's been some very interesting things happening with the Baltic Dry Index. Stacey, tell us what's been going on.
Well, Max, in this instance, a chart tells 1,000 words.
Wow, that looks bad. But should we be worried? To find out, I gave Charles DeTrank, a container shipping analyst based in Hong Kong, a call. What is the Baltic Dry Index?
The Baltic Dry Index is really it's a simplistic indicator of industrial activity, especially focused on Asia and China. It's different than it was 20 years ago, but it's still what I would call the tail wagging the dog. It is not an indicator of long-term pricing of transport costs. It's an indicator more towards the shorter, the spot end of the market.
And what is the dog in this case, in your example?
The global economy, if you would, or the global industrial economy to be more specific, and China's need for raw materials to be more specific.
Baltic Dry Index, Sami, any comments?
Well, it looks like industrial activity is just grinding to a halt.
Pretty much that's what it says, yeah.
We're just going back to the Stone Age by the looks of things.
Things aren't moving.
It looks like we're entering into a post-capitalist stage.
I've got the numbers actually on that. Korea's exports fell by 30% in January on last year. Taiwan's fell by 42% and Japan by 27%.
Wow.
So let me understand. Does that mean that it's almost cost nothing to ship things from Asia to Europe?
That's virtually nothing. They're giving it away.
This shipping crisis started, the rate started to collapse once the letter of credit disappeared. Do you know what this is?
So you're actually talking about the more safe kind of banking here, in which you basically, you want to deal with somebody abroad, you take your money, you go and put it in a bank which is recognized by both parties as a real bank, and not some of the banks which have been collapsing recently because they're not real anymore. And they give you a little letter, which is, it's almost equivalent to money, which you can then send to your counterparty, and then he can draw money upon that.
Right. Letters of credit in the shipping industry are essential. It's the plain vanilla piece of banking that makes that industry go. And that has collapsed. Whereas the mortgage market turned into tutti frutti, 1,001 flavors, and is completely non-essential. And that is what collapsed on the overall global economy, which created a slowdown to the point where the plain vanilla piece of paper, the letter of credit, which is nothing more ordinary than a postage stamp in the world of finance, is collapsed as well. And hence, no containers in Hong Kong.
Speaking of tutti frutti, I've got some images from Los Angeles. Wow. Here in Los Angeles are some empty shelves in several of the big major box shops. And you know all the names out there. The shelves are empty in Los Angeles.
Yeah, well, isn't that Soviet Union, 1955? What's going on here?
This is Russia pre-Glasnost,
right,
and this is us post-capitalism. Right. We're regressing. So, something's very scary here.
Wow.
Honestly, I'm really worried. I'm going to have to look for another country to immigrate to now.
Well, I love Russian music. I do. I love that Russian national anthem. I think it's a very nice national anthem.
It's very good in the morning when coffee just won't do.
It's fantastic.
Yeah,
anyway, you know, I sense the Oracle is trying to tell us something. I feel it. I have that sensation in my bones. I've got the... Yes, the message is coming through. Stacey and Sama. Hank Paulson becomes an icon to university students and anti-capitalist activists around the world. I must say, of all the Oracle predictions we've had on this show so far, this is the most cryptic. Stacey, please, can you untangle this?
I have a clue because I saw some footage, some images come from Havana, Cuba. You know, in Havana, Cuba, there's no capitalism there. They have no advertisement, but they do have propaganda on their billboards. Here's Che Guevara. Everybody knows this. We also have Fidel Castro. Vamos bien. Everything is going well. We are good, he says. This is the most shocking.
Well,
our banks are sound. That's Hank Paulson, the former CEO of Goldman Sachs, one of the biggest derivative traders in the world, who was the Treasury Secretary under Bush.
Wow. Based down in Cuba, pushing his own unique style of free market capitalism, which looks a lot like Soviet-era communism.
Well, let's admit it, he can't make their economy any worse.
He landed on his feet, didn't he? He left the treasury.
Yeah, he did.
Obama came in, Paulson's out, but he landed on his feet. He's in Havana selling cigar-backed collateralized mortgage obligations to nurses and doctors just trying to fund their education. So pretty soon there won't be any health care in Cuba either.
No, but I think this is more likely to go up in smoke.
Well, oil is really the lifeblood of the global economy, isn't it, Stacy? Talk to us about oil.
It
in
is.
depth.
If you look at the chart,
In essence.
however,
I'm keeping my eye
it's
on
on
you.
life support.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Look at that. Oh, my God. What's plunging? What's going on?
The price of oil hit an all-time high last July at
Oh, yeah.
147.47.
I bought some. Don't have to remind me. I'm hurting. Ouch.
Now it's down in the low 30s as investors are withdrawing from the market, believing that we're basically in a global depression and there will never again be the need for oil.
Okay, Sama, talk oil. You talk OPEC. You talk Saudi Arabia. Talk to me about Saudi Arabia a little bit because you got some interesting information about that.
I mean, it's probably the country which has got the most problems because it's got a really big population, and when a drop of oil happens of the severity, their economy loses out. And I noticed the other day that they've got this incredible idea for actually reviving their economy by bringing in women. Women cannot work in Saudi Arabia.
Right.
But apparently, by no less than a royal decree, women will now be allowed to sell underwear to other women in mixed-sex shopping centers. Now, let's get this right. This is supposed to be, the pretext is to get women back into the workforce. But let me ask you this. In one of the most conservative countries in the world, up until recently, men and women could discuss underwear openly.
Right.
And now that's being taken away to give women a job. Now, is this advancement?
No, you make a good point. How many underwear shops can there be in Saudi Arabia, by your estimation?
To
What do you
get their
think?
economy up.
Stacey, you're a woman. How many underwear shops can there be in Saudi Arabia?
There's never enough. If you've walked through Paris, you see they're on every corner.
Yeah.
But Saudi oil minister Ali Al Naimi announced that Saudi Arabia is actually going to cut by more than the OPEC quota in February.
But is OPEC really still relevant? I mean, this is
Apparently
the question
not, because the price continued to fall.
I think we should rename it Organization of Potentially Explosive Countries. Because these guys have got serious problems coming their way. They've got their economies all based on huge projections of what the oil price is.
Yeah.
They're heading towards recessions.
Well, by explosive, you mean like population explosion?
But I
growth.
mean unstable countries.
Right.
I mean, listen, difficult times go for difficult measures. Should we be leaving oil in the hands of OPEC?
Speaking of explosive,
Yeah.
where there's explosions, there's usually a banker in this in the last year or so, and bankers have found an interesting thing in the oil market. There's a thing called contango. Now I know you're a banker, a former banker. Can you explain to the audience what contango is?
Basically, it means that you put ships. You fill tankers with oil, and you use them as floating storage capacities because you've already gotten into a trade knowing that the futures of oil is already very high. So it's what is known as carry, which is the price of storing oil. They're hoping, in a way, that while this oil is floating around, the price will go up. My advice to them is it's probably far better business to use these floating oil tankers as cruise ships.
Right.
And therefore, this way, actually making real money.
Dual purpose.
For example,
So in the hull, oil. On top, tennis courts and swimming pools.
you don't have to go far for your suntan oil.
Good point.
So all these bankers are hiring these super tankers. Now, clearly they got the idea from the Somali pirates, because remember, the first time I've heard of the word super tanker was last year when Somali pirates hijacked the Sirius Star. You see the image, actually.
Yeah.
They were paid a $3 million ransom, as you see on the, if we zoom in there. Is that a banker or?
No, that's no, I think that's what's known as a cash payment.
Oh, it is.
Oh, yeah, it's a big sack of
Exactly.
cash.
Yeah, but this is very nice because in a way I'm very happy that piracy is back. It's so romantic for a start, and our industry, our economies have become so advanced that white collar crime is the only kind of crime we know, and we can't really arrest people like Madoff. But with pirates, you can blow them out of the water and get instant gratification rather than having to spend money suing them.
Anyway, that's it for this episode of The Oracle. Tune in next week for more news before it happens. Remember, there's always the future.